Hello, everyone, and good evening, or 2 minutes to good morning in my time. Lovely to see you here today. We're delving deeper into my rabbit hole of the moment. Well, rabbit hole that seems to be sucking everyone in like a gargantuan black hole of intrigue, mystery, entertainment, sadness, ridicule, and disturbing things, which of course is the history or the Christory of Chris Chan. I have, of course, Andrew with me. Hi, Andrew.
I am grateful for the opportunity to participate.
I told him to. He kept saying, "I do streams on Adam's channel,"
Which technically is true. I do streams. I didn't say I own streams on Adam's channel, did I? And then Adam, you can't say that, it's my channel.
So then we had some words offline, and I said to Andy, "You need to be more grateful."
We didn't have words. He threatened me. He said, "If you say that again, I'll find out where you are, make Sonitude videos about you, humiliate you online." I was like, right, you win, you win.
And joining us this evening, we have Heisenberg White, or as we like to call him, Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to discussing our boy Chris Chan here. We are in the midst of Chris Chan sanity. It's sweeping the nation.
Oh, I like that. Chris Chan sanity. Damn it. You should have said that before.
Done,
I could have titled it, yes. Well, we are. It's sweeping YouTube like something else at the moment, and I think mostly it's down to, and I know I've mentioned it in every one of these videos I've done, but Gino Samuel's documentary, which you have to give large respect to the guy for putting something so in depth and well put together. Although sadly I saw, because I'm subbed to him now, because I was just like, yeah, I've got to know when these come out, and
yeah, I did as well today.
Yeah, I don't think the next one comes out until next Saturday, not tomorrow, which is a shame, because I always look forward to the new part. But if you guys in the chat haven't watched the documentary and you don't know much about Chris Chan, there's the Sachumo documentary, which is great, but that's an hour and a half. At the moment, this documentary, the guy's uploading piece by piece, is running at something like 6 hours.
Like a series.
Have you watched those, Dan?
Of course, yes, I have. And I'm also...
Are you up to date?
I am, yes. I've kind of been binging them the past couple of days, and just today, in anticipation for this, I watched the most recent one again, because that's kind of going to be what we talk about. And to people who are pretty well versed in this, we'll go ahead and say now and I hope you guys agree, for the duration of this chat, we're going to be referring to him as Chris Chan, probably because we're talking about past Chris Chan, not current Christine Chandler. So for our sake in this discussion, we'll be referring to Chris Chan as Chris Chan.
Yes, and we don't mean disrespect to him by that.
Absolutely not. Yep.
Speaking of respect, let's all stop and congratulate Adam, the egotistical bastard, for getting 1,000 subs on the iRec Everything channel.
You finally saved up enough money to buy those subs. Way to go, man.
I finally managed to afford a sub farm.
Yeah, he's set up 20 side accounts to jump up the figures to 1,000, and it's worked.
Chris Chan did something like that once when he tried to win a contest.
Yeah, it's just me with 100 sock puppets accounts.
You heard that? Damn, that's a good idea. I gotta try that.
Now I just need to enter a Parappa the Rapper contest and rap. That's a rap. That's sorry. If you've listened to that as many times as I have, it's a bit.
If you want 2,000 subs, you're gonna have to start rapping more, though, Adam.
that only happens very.
Did you hear what you just said there, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did a little
you
rap.
Stand by that comment.
I did a little rap on one of these streams, and people liked it. They were like, "Wow, Adam spits bars."
That's the same affection that people had for the Sonitude comics.
Well, I'm Rex Scammers, and I'm here to say, if you feel a scam, you shouldn't pay.
well, see?
Now I've got my ghostwriter too. It's sorted.
There you go.
Anyway, back to the matter at hand. So today we're going to talk about, and I should probably say some of you guys in the chat might find it a little bit disturbing, as we did. If you're not up to date with the documentary, if you are, you'll probably know why it's quite disturbing, because I don't really want to focus so much on Chris Chan himself this evening, but on his most infamous troll, who was known as Blue Spike.
And the following things I mean, these are true events that have been recorded. This isn't like internet speculation,
No.
rumor. No, this is stuff that really, really happened. So just get ready for that.
Yeah, well, to give anyone who may not be aware, and if you do want to watch the documentary, I apologise for any spoilers, but of course, anyone who's sort of into the history of Chris Chan or the Christory, then you probably are aware, at least in a small part, of this, the worst troll. Now, to explain Blue Spike's trolling, he, as we've discussed many times in previous streams, Chris Chan was on a love quest. And he was trying to find a woman, and he believed he had found the love of his life, who was called Julie, who was voiced by a troll who went by the name of Blue Spike, I believe probably also a reference to Sonic, and probably the reason that they were drawn to the whole sort of Chris Chan shenanigans. But he also voiced someone called Max, who was Julie's brother. Now this, we believe, or the information we have on Blue Spike is that he was a 13 or teenage boy during the time.
Pretty much as good as confirmed that he was 13. He did sound very young.
Well, he
probably
said,
in his teens.
When he did the reveal, he said, "You've been speaking to a 13-year-old boy this whole time, you sick fuck." Even though it's very debatable, and we'll go much deeper into this as to who is the real sick fuck in this whole thing. Now, taking on this persona of Julie, I believe on many occasions that weren't recorded or aren't available, they had sort of cyber sex, as you might call it, or phone sex or whatever over the internet, of course. Because there's a very famous video that Chris made called "For Julie's Eyes Only," where I believe he's doing something with a woman doll, a blow-up doll called Kimmy, or a Kimmy doll. I think that might be like a brand name. I don't know about those things. And going, "Oh, Julie, Julie, Julie," as he simulates humping it. So yeah, that sort of had happened, and there'd been quite a lot of, I believe, sexual stuff, and in the persona of Julie, this Blue Spike character came across as very caring, very like just wanted to be with Chris, saying that he was her true love and that sort of thing. However, he then introduced Julie's, and also we should say, and Julie apparently came from the country of Mulvania, which doesn't exist. And there is a recording of her talking, or him talking to Chris, and then to Chris's dad, who had said, Bob had said at the start, "I don't want to talk to that person, they're lying, Mulvania doesn't exist." And then I believe what happened was they spoke to him, and he apologised. Chris's dad, this is Bob the Internet Lumberjack, he apologised for doubting it. What I think is he got confused with the country of Moldova, which would have been part, I think, and I might be wrong, I'm not brilliant with geography, but I believe Moldova is part of what was the former Soviet Union, which I believe they were trying to claim to Chris Mulvania was. And the names of the characters were Julie and Max Milvana, who had just come from Mulvania to America. Now, of course, Chris, whether you can say it's due to his affliction, he's a very gullible thing. It's a very gullible person. So, sorry, I shouldn't refer to him as a thing. That's quite rude. A very gullible person who does seem to lose a lot of foresight when it comes to China. Just to be clear, guys in the chat, if you're not aware with Chrisisms, China is what he calls vagina. So, yeah, he tends to be quite blinded towards things if he thinks there's some China at the end of the rainbow. And the reason,
as many of us are,
it can happen. And the reason I kind of wanted to focus on this, if you've listened to the audio recording, the final audio recording between Chris and Blue Spike, it's very disturbing. It is there, in my opinion, there is no debate that crosses the line. I mean, sometimes trolling can have, I suppose, a positive effect. Sometimes it can be for your own entertainment. But what this guy did to Chris is, in my opinion, despicable. And I think Well, he probably kept his head down because he had the sense to do it from the internet after the whole events. I know that the trolls, after everything happened, were quite scared of repercussions and things that were happening. If you guys have both heard this recording today, haven't you? And yes. When you're listening to it, you can even hear the trolls in the background saying, "Stop this shit! This is fucked up." And I would say someone who does that kind of trolling is just as worthy of analysis as Chris himself. Sadly, we only have the information of this kind of thing, but Chris himself, I would never wish any... In fact, it's a very strange place to say where you stand with Chris, because I actually would like to see the guy turn his life around and try and make something decent out of... try and make his fan base, which to an extent is probably mostly mocking him now, into an actual fan base. And I know he's not the brightest and he's not the best person. He doesn't have the greatest moral code. But if you listen to this trolling, and the reason why it's so despicable, and I guess we should explain this to guys in the chat who might not understand, is... even talking about it, I'm a bit on edge, but I have warned people it will be quite disturbing. But... he, at one point, gets Chris. Now, you can see in the picture on the screen in front of you, he's got his little Sonichu medallion on him. And Chris's Sonichu medallions were something he spent time and effort making. And this guy, Blue Spike, basically, he stole Chris's PSN and Yahoo accounts. And in order to get them back, he started then kind of saying, you need to do this and then you need to do that. Also with the promise of this Julie person, quotation marks, Julie, coming to him. But the worst thing that he did, it's so fucked up even talking about it, but the worst thing that he made Chris chop that medallion into 4 pieces and stick a piece of it up his arse. And the kid, or this Blue Spike fella, watched this all happen on webcam. And I don't know, how did you guys feel listening to that latest audio, or not latest audio, but that full audio recording on Gino Samuel's latest part of his documentary?
You want to go ahead, Andy?
Oh, sorry, I was gonna let you speak, Dan. But first of all, well, you know how he's supposed to be 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about this. If you think back, I'd like to think. Well, I know that none of us would sort of sink that low when we were 13. But if you kind of think the crazy things that you did and how lack of wisdom you had at that age, if you're a kid who's maybe not got the best upbringing, you've got a bit of anger inside you, you've been exposed to YouTube, this YouTube culture, you've got embedded within it, what a perfect opportunity to exact your anger on someone. And as I was listening to it, I was thinking, this kid has got control over Chris, and Chris is doing everything that he said. And it was kind of making me really upset, because I was thinking all that Chris wanted was the rights to his was access to his channel again, his PSN channel, the login details,
his PlayStation account, the
PSN details. And it was so difficult to listen to, because you were just thinking all he wants is what's his. It's been stolen from him, and these guys have. I don't think you can. I don't know whether it's an offence to actually steal somebody's login details, but
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Right. Well, regardless of whether it was a criminal offence or not, it's still a very wrong thing to do. But at the same time, I was trying to not judge that 13-year-old too much, because I'm like, he's a kid. Listen, it's wrong, and he was horrible for what he did. But do you understand where I'm coming from? If he comes from a shit background, even if he doesn't, at that age, he's got total power over that guy. He was loving it, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I don't care if you're 13. By the age of 9, I had a moral compass that told me it was... There's no excuse, and that's why you have to start questioning the mentality of this kid. Did he want to see a grown man who perhaps wasn't fully developed, but a grown man shoving things up his arse?
Yeah, it's strange, because in any other case, if he were to do that to another classmate of his of the same age, that's just, bullying. But I doubt he would do it, because there's a threat that the parents could be involved, and you would get to see this kid face to face, and you just wouldn't have the balls to do it. But when you have total anonymity and the person is an adult that you're screwing with and is this defenseless and is basically another child, has the mind of a child.
Yeah.
He sees it as a game rather than like just bullying. Like he's just trying to see how far he can push it. It's like he's got him trapped in his own little world where he can do whatever he wants to this guy. He doesn't see him as another human being. And a lot of people besides that troll specifically don't. They don't see him as they see him as a character, as a persona that will always do whatever they're told to do if they can manipulate them in the right way.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It was to humiliate him as much as possible, and that, like, when he's getting Chris to yell at him, that one where he squeals with delight, as the subtitles so wonderfully put it in the documentary. And he squeal, and he does. He sounds like a little kid opening the Christmas present he's been waiting for or something. And that for me really showed what a fucked up person that you must be. Even at 13, you're squealing with delight because you think a grown man's making sounds like he's constipated, and it's just,
it's what he got him to do to his own body with whatever it was. That item that he had. It's like It's disturbing to think that even someone of 13 would want someone else to do that. It's not a nice thing to think about. And I think anybody that was listening to that, anybody that is even got a shred of decency in them, would have been like disturbed a little bit.
Well, I think that even the other trolls who were there were.
Was that real though? Because as I was listening, I take everything. I take everything with a pinch of salt. In other words, I didn't know whether their disgust was a genuine disgust or whether it was all part of the act. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Well, no. I think they were in agreement, because there's a little clip just afterwards where even like Clyde Cash, who was probably Chris Chan's, after Blue Spike, probably Chris Chan's most infamous troll, and Clyde Cash like, you're too mean, why do you always keep being I don't care if that kid was 13, he's a cunt. I mean, there's trolling for entertainment, and there's being, as Danny Dews just put it, there's being an absolute sociopath and making someone degrade themselves for your own pleasure.
Yeah, nobody can disagree with that, Adam. I wasn't trying to say what he did wasn't bad. I suppose in my own way it's easier for me to accept it if there's a reason why someone's such a twat at that age. In other words, is the potential that he's had abuse when he was a kid, and that's why he wants to do that to Chris Chan. Because like Dan said, the ultimate power, not only is he bullying someone, which a lot of 13-year-olds do to people their own age, but if he's doing that to what he perceives as being an adult, it's the ultimate power trip for someone of that age. And you could hear it in his voice, the pure delight that he was getting from it as well.
It's bizarre that most humans, I think, can become increasingly more bizarre and evil with their actions the more layers you add on in between individuals. What I mean by that is, if you're walking down the street and you see a very funny looking person, you're not about to run up to that person and say, hey, your hair looks like shit, like you what the hell is the matter with you? No. But when you're walking with your friend and you pass a few blocks later, you say, hey, did you see that guy over there? What a freaking crazy guy that was. Now let's add on another layer to that, where it's a stranger that you don't have to interact with, but you see a video of them online and you can comment, you can say, what a piece of shit asshole, look at that weirdo. Now, so the more, and then it goes all the way to where they're not even real at all, and people in video games, you could just beat your prostitute virtual girlfriend in Grand Theft Auto with a bat until you're tired. But
I love doing that.
Oh yeah. But the troll who has those tendencies and those opinions and the thoughts about people already in him, but would never act on them in person, has the layers of being anonymous. He knows he's never going to meet them, and he knows that everything is done via the internet. So he's got this extra firewall where he can protect himself and say and do whatever he wants.
Isn't that just the definition of a troll, though, Dan?
Of a troll, sure, yeah. But I'm saying trolling exists because of the internet. Obviously, that's the platform in which it was born on. But it just gives people like that an outlet. But when you add on, other factors like the fact that he really believed, I think, I would hope kind of that he really didn't see Chris as a person and saw him as more of this character that he could play with in his own virtual world. Like, it's like when you are attacking innocent civilians in Grand Theft Auto and feeling no repercussion because they're not real people. That's what this kid, I believe, thinks when he says, hey, I can fuck this guy all over 6 ways from Sunday. I could make him do horrible things. I don't care. He's not real to me. That's Chris Chan. He's this goofy internet character. And as a child, he may not have been able to weigh the gravity of the situation and realize what exactly it was he was doing.
Well, just kind of like for me to go the usual deep route, that's kind of what everybody does when somebody does something really mean to somebody, especially in this forum. They've dehumanized them, haven't they? It's like judging someone and saying, oh, you're a bad person or you're a shitty person. Of course, from one perspective, it's true. But from another perspective, you're dehumanizing them because you're very casually giving them a label rather than going deeper, because everybody has even the most evil person on the planet, there's a reason why they're like that.
But not all trolling is evil. I say it's not even what is said, but it's the target too. When hundreds of thousands of people come together to troll Pepsi in the Name the Mountain Dew contest, and they all spam Hitler did nothing wrong as the top choice to name the new Mountain Dew, nobody cares. It's a victimless crime. Like, people are going to be offended.
Oh, yeah, I've started trolling Disney because of my hatred of The Last Jedi, so,
Like, you could do some terrible things, but the victim here is what? The billion-dollar corporation of Pepsi? Like, who cares?
It's very different. I think it shows a distinct lack of empathy on the part of Blue Spike. Age aside, you haven't been all brought up properly if you want to... The thing is, if you're trolling for entertainment or for something to be funny, if you just want to... Even if you just want to make this guy rant and make a YouTube video... I'm not saying it's okay that you can steal his PSN, you can make him do odd things, but when it becomes like this weird sexual thing where, especially when it is a kid who's 13, who's probably very curious, you have to wonder what is up with that guy. And I think that the main problem, as you both said, is he didn't see him as a person. He hadn't developed empathy for other human beings. And while Chris is not a particularly redeemable human being, there's a line where you just have to go, no, you don't do that to anyone. It's just not on. And I think it was well and truly crossed in this particular saga, in the Blue Spike saga, and yet it's the most famous and probably the most well known of all, probably because of the depth of that might be the wrong choice of words in here, but but probably because of the extreme of the trolling. I've been listening to a lot of like sort of other Christian stuff because I've just been like, this is a very interesting rabbit hole to fall down, and even to at some points Clyde Cash is sort of saying, sort your life out, get outside, get a job. The guy Alec something Benson as well, who was the guy that made the Aspertu comic. Which is trolling you can almost say is commendable because they knew it would wind Chris up because he didn't like people with Asperger's. He sort of said, people with Asperger's are trying to take the shine and light. I believe this is almost a direct quote, trying to take the shine and light away from people with autism. So this guy made a comic using his character but had Asperger's. But then there's like maybe 2 hours of phone calls between the two of them where he's going, this guy is actually trying to make Chris understand. He's going, look, you've got two characters you've molded together. Make them into something original. Take that creativity, do something, get off your ass, stop being so lazy. You do have, whether it's mocking or not, a fan base. I mean, he doesn't say that, and you can make something good out of it. that kind of trolling, or trolling even just to wind people up as far as possible, even the trolling with the pickle man, where this guy literally, I mean, you have to say that is funny, where a guy literally dresses, Chris goes on what he thinks is a real date, and a guy turns up in a pickle suit because Chris has stated he hates pickles, and steals his date from him. Okay, it's cruel, but it's ingenuity.
Yeah, but even that, it is funny. But even that's like, do you think that's acceptable to like?
My issue with that is his dad was chaperoning him on the date, and it's, you know, when you start.
If he wasn't, you still think it'd be fair game to do that.
A lot of the trolling with Chris, like in regard, like the Robert the Simmons the Fifth stuff and that kind of thing, it's strange because they did get involved with his parents and that kind of thing, and I think that humanizes someone. Once you start seeing their parents, you're like, well, do I want to really ruin this person's child's life? But
now, if you guys mind, I want to throw some words at you here. All things that I believe most things I believe that Chris has had to deal with in this Blue Spike case, and I want your opinion on whether or not you think some of these words mean the same thing, or whether or not there is a small but important distinction between them. There, on the one level, there's trolling. You all know what trolling is. Second from that is bullying, and from there we go to harassment. Yeah. I think all three of those have elements of each other in them, but in varying degrees. And from there you can go to manipulation, like just pure manipulation, getting somebody to do something you're trying to get them to do. And basically psychological torture is the most extreme of going down that line. I think it starts at trolling, where it's just trying to get a rise out of somebody. You're just saying things just for the sake of watching their reaction, where bullying I think is a little more intentional and direct and aimed specifically at an individual to pick them apart and bring them down a peg. And harassing is just like bombarding, like constant non-relenting bullying then with no end until extreme measures are taken.
Like you said earlier, Dan, trolling doesn't fit one specific
not at all. No
area, does it? Because if you, like you said, there's the trolling of like bigger corporations, but on a smaller scale, my videos about lawn could be considered, and from some respect, are trolling, because I'm making repeated videos about one individual. So
that would more fall under harassment technically, rather, wouldn't it, than trolling, though? Because I would say trolling, if you try to define it, would be more like someone puts themselves out there and a group of people come together to try and trip them up.
I don't think it's harassment, because harassment implies that it's done specifically to. If you're harassing someone, they've got to feel like their life is being affected, like you're doing something to affect their day-to-day life, like phone calls or direct contact. Do you understand what I mean? I mean, we're getting a bit, technical here, but
I think trolling is when Chris Hansen goes on Facebook Live to answer questions, and somebody in the comments says, "Hey, when are you gonna do the next To Catch a Predator?" And they're joking because they know he doesn't even do that show anymore, and you get them all angry. But I think harassing is when you go on Crime Watch Daily's Facebook and respond with that to every single post they make and everything they do, and sending them letters and calling them all the time. When's the next To Catch a Predator gonna be? Like, I think that's a step beyond just trolling. I think that is where you get to harassing from that.
Yeah, Chris Hansen even never replied to my tweet to him, which I was disappointed about. But then he also never gave the money and the promised things back to the Kickstarter people. Yep. Bastard.
Yeah.
See, he used to be my hero until he did that. It's like, I loved Chris Hansen, and then I was like, Chris Hansen, you're scamming people. Stop lying to them. You're not as bad as one of the Predators.
Wow, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Hansen was an absolute. Chris Hansen was the ultimate troll, the troll of Predators.
Yeah, he was. There may have been a little bit of manipulation there too. But yes, trolling for sure. A troll. He wasn't a bully, at least not in the early episodes of the series, I don't think. I think he really was an investigative journalist who was trying to get to the bottom of an issue, asking questions and giving people, the predators, every opportunity to explain themselves.
Yeah, he's definitely a troll in Hansen versus Predator, isn't he?
Yeah. That's a little bit different tone, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. I didn't really care for those, to be honest, but
no, they weren't. I mean, he used to be. I just loved the way he used people's own lines from chat logs to put them off their step. But anyway, we're falling a little bit off track. But I mean, the thing is trolling it's a wide spectrum, because you could just go on and post something not very nice on every video of someone on YouTube, and that person will consider you a troll.
For research purposes, I would like everybody in the chat to start trolling Adam and Andy as often as possible, by any means necessary.
So would I.
Yes.
Especially Adam.
Well, the thing is, if it's done with humour as the intention, you can never really blame anyone. I mean,
well, what about our friend Dax Desib that trolled me and you, Adam? Do you remember that, Dan? Were you involved when that was going on?
What? Yeah, that name's real familiar.
Dax Desib.
Dax basically took on a persona of like the world's biggest SJW, who was transgender, so anything you said was offensive, but at the same time sort of went on about how it's fine to sleep with children and stuff, and just knew it would wind me.
Was Lorne's biggest fan.
Yeah.
Like, really felt for Lorne's plight. Me and Adam both felt for it. But to be
fair, after they did it, we were like, well, yeah, you can see they got.
But it was done in good humour, though.
Yeah.
There was never the thing I liked about Dax, and we stayed friends with him for a while because there was no maliciousness in it. Even though it got me and you quite wound up, and you stayed up all night reviewing internet view techniques, there was never an element of like
the PAX marathon.
there was never any personal digs at me and you. It was all done to wind us up and have a bit of fun. And then he eventually came clean and said, I can only take this so far because you two are nice guys. That's his opinion.
It was when I said I was going to wake up at 5 a.m. to have a debate, and then Dax was like, look, I got to tell you, I don't want you staying up all night on a work night.
I'm probably going to bounce here in the next couple of minutes, but before I do, and to get us kind of back on subject here, I'd like to know, in your guys' opinions, and this may be an easy question, I don't know, but like, in your experience or opinion, when you're the victim of trolling, like, what is the best way to cope with it or deal with it or not deal with it? I guess, like, what is something Chris could have done or future people watching should do in the event of terrible internet trolling? And I'll have to say, in the event that you are completely just being the victim in this, not in Lorne's case where you did something terrible and you're getting what's coming to you. I'm saying you're just minding your own business on the internet, and people start to attack you just to troll and mess with you. What do you guys think is the best way to deal with that?
Well, the thing is, I don't know. I can only talk about this in regards to my YouTube channels. And to be fair, if someone puts a comment I don't like, I'll just delete it. When I first started out, I would reply and get wound up, and then I realised that's the wrong way to go. You can, as much as I'd love to encourage freedom of speech, if someone's just being an outright cunt, then fuck them. Just block them from the channel. But that's
easier said than done, though, isn't it? Because your ego sort of sometimes will come to the forefront if someone has a personal dig at you. Because the thing is with me and you, Adam, the amount of videos we've done, there's a lot of personal information about us online. Not hugely personal, but there's enough out there to someone, because it's happened to me in the last few months. Someone wants to have a personal dig at you. There's no point going into it. Someone had a really personal dig at me a few weeks ago. And we're all human at the end of the day. And, sometimes we react. But obviously, Dan, to answer your question from my perspective, it's just to ignore them. And Hal has just said, go offline for 6 months. It's not necessarily that easy. But you've just got to rise above it. Just like if you was walking down the street and someone came up to you and started calling you a horrible bastard, you'd be like, the easiest way to deal with it.
Just keep walking.
Yeah, but of course, it's easier said than done, isn't it?
I
Well,
believe
we all bite. We all
in-
bite.
in internet trolling's case, and in my experience, it may not work for everybody, but I believe in killing them with kindness, even
Yeah,
if it's a little
well-
sarcastic and just it kind of fucks
Kill
with
them.
them in a way they didn't expect. I've very fortunately not had a lot of hate thrown my way, but when people go after and attack friends of mine on YouTube, and I get really offended, even if they don't. If somebody says, "Hey, that Wine Lover's a piece of shit," or Nick Bagler, oh, I don't like them at all, and they're really trying to mess with them. They're really trying to be personal, attack them. Sometimes I like to comment like just something to throw them off, like, "Hey man, like I want to suck your dick," and like just really fucking throw them off their game. Be like, "Wow, you sound hot. Let's meet up." Wink.
Yeah, because but that in a way is ignoring it, because what you're doing is you're ignoring the attack.
Of course, yeah.
So you are rising above it. So you're right.
Coming out
But
of
the problem with that is it will give them some back avenue, no pun intended, some back passage back into the fray to try and wind you up again.
Well, yeah, I think it's very difficult, in fact, from all of our perspectives, because we can only talk about it as channel people who have channels on YouTube, which more or less you have full control and censorship over if you want to. And it's not the same, because Chris was kind of talking to people on like Mumble Chat. He had his comics that he believed he had a fan base from. So it's not the same.
I am. Listen, fellas, I have to bid you adieu. These guys.
Yeah,
are gonna
would you
keep
like
talking
to tell
without me,
everybody
though.
what you're up to, Dan, this evening?
Yes, I am taking a fine young lady to the
How
drive-in
young
movie
is this
theater.
lady? Would you like to comment on that?
It's none of your business. No, she's my age. She's 13 like me. No, she's a 22-year-old. Okay, I prefer girls in the college.
Take a 10-year off
age.
that, and that's probably about right.
Listen, I'll leave you guys with these words of wisdom here. If I could sit Chris down 10 years ago and tell him something that I would want to get across, I'd say, listen to me. Here's the best advice I can give you. If you're gonna be on the internet, treat every day like it's April Fool's Day, because on April Fool's Day, everything you read on the internet is obviously false. But if you treat every day like that, and you're always skeptical, and you always do a little more research beforehand, and you don't believe everything you hear, you're going to avoid a lot of trouble. So,
very nice
That's
words.
a great way of looking at it. Enjoy your date with this young lady.
I'm into much older ladies, actually. She's 74.
Oh,
Really?
She's going to
She got a
get me the
sister?
senior discount ticket to the movie, so, yeah.
Dan doesn't like them unless the tits hang below the knees.
I like to go to bed early, and I like to eat dinner early. It's a win-win.
And also the free sort of drugs and that they get.
Of course, yes. Guys, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your night. I'll catch
Thanks,
you later.
Dan. Thanks
Good luck, Dan. Have a good one, mate.
Thanks for
Bye, guys.
joining us.
Yep, thanks. See you.
So yes, I saw Dogtopia was complaining. We've gone off topic, and I do apologise, Dogtopia. Now we are not defending Chris completely. In regards, what we're talking about here is literally this one kind of event that happened in his life, which I do personally, and I don't mind saying it, and you might disagree, but it doesn't deserve to happen to anyone. No one deserves to be made. And the trouble is, it would only happen to someone like Chris because of his lack of social awareness. So yeah, I know he's done a lot of bad things, and a lot of people tried to warn him to address what you said. But in regards to the blue spike trolling, that for me personally is a line that people shouldn't cross unless there's something wrong with them themselves. However, yeah, Chris has done a lot of things in his life. He's not really developed. He's not really sort of learnt from his past mistakes. If he ever will, he won't. For me, it's more disappointing that someone who could turn something so terrible, well, not terrible, but like who is not a great person, could turn it around by being... And I wonder if this manifestation of what is Chris now, Christine Chan, is his attempt at trying to understand. Now, not saying because he suffers from autism that he should be given more leeway, perhaps, than other people. But I do think, and especially listening to the Blue Spike calls, there's a lot of parts where I'm like, this guy, he just doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand social normalities.
Chris doesn't.
No, especially at the time in the Blue Spike trolling, he doesn't understand social normalities. He doesn't understand that just getting your cock out for people on webcam when they're not showing themselves on webcam is a bad idea. And of course, we're talking what, over 10 years ago this happened, so the internet was a lot more of a jungle than it perhaps is now, and people didn't have the same awareness they do. Trolling can have good intentions. Trolling might not have good intentions, but it can be for entertainment. Fine, I get it. Trolling when you're getting a grown autistic man to shove bits of a medallion of a character he loves up his arse is plain fucking wrong. And if you do that to someone, you are fucked in the head, and you deserve any repercussions that come your way. If the person, the Blue Spike troll, was found out and properly revealed, and I know some people say his name's David, some people say his name's Fiji Condor or whatever, I don't really care if I dox him because I don't think it's right. Of course, don't send hate to anyone without absolutely knowing who you're talking to, or don't send hate to anyone, full stop. That's just a bad idea. But that guy was an absolute, complete and utter cunt.
Well, that's that then, I suppose. No, I mean, it's hard to disagree with any of that. I think what you got to remember is anybody that does that to anybody else, there's something not quite right with that person. Because why? I don't know what pleasure you get out of doing that. But is the level of trolling that happened to... I don't want to get into the lawn thing too much. That's for another time. But is it ever justified? I'm not trying to draw comparisons with the Ramona thing.
Well, it's like we said in the last talk about Christian. I don't want to end up kind of saying the same thing again and again. But it can have started with good intentions, and even not necessarily good intentions. This is probably a term because you won't be familiar with, Andy, because I know you're not the most technologically sound person, but what Chris is referred to as is a lol cow, which is basically someone that can be milked for laughs. So you create a character, you wind him up, you get laughs. Some people, where the morality and what's okay and what's not is a broad spectrum in that context, and I get it. You can keep going and going at someone because they keep retaliating, they keep interacting, they keep making videos, and you enjoy them. It's like I said about the video where he opens and he says, "The man in the pickle suit tricked me again." Alright, it's something not very nice has happened to him before, but that is entertainment. To me, at least. Maybe that makes me a terrible person. But I wouldn't personally go out of my way and do something horrible to someone just because I think they're a bad person. I might try and get entertainment out of someone. I might try and wind someone up. I mean, I do that to you and to my friends and to my family a lot. Winding people up is one of my favourite pastimes. But there's no malice in it. When it just gets disturbing and dark, what is wrong with you?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? What is wrong with you? You know, how many people out there? We're all, you know, most people are flawed, and we've all got a dark side to us. But some people Some people are just assholes. Some people like to be mean to people for various reasons that are too plentiful and complicated to go into here. The human psyche is incredibly complex, especially at the age of 13. I did some things when I was that age where I was like, what a arsehole. You know, not nothing. I didn't get, you know.
But this is the difference, though. And I actually hope that this Blue Spike person, every kind of day of their life goes, that wasn't right, you know. I feel guilty for that. And I'm quite happy. It might make me sound a bit fucking high and mighty or whatever, but I can look back at my life and say there's nothing I've ever done to anyone that I hugely regret, that I think about every day. You know, there was a couple of things I did when I was a kid, but I'm talking like primary school kid. But that was like accidentally kicking my mate in the bollocks when I tried to reenact the scene from The Karate Kid, and I promised him I wouldn't kick him in the bollocks, but reenacting it wasn't as easy as I thought. And then he got
that's an accident.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, see, there was no malintent behind it. But when for me, it was so dark, and even if you put it into context, like if we make another comparison with the Lorne trolling, nothing that happened to Lorne has ever been done with such pure vengeance. And in the case of Lorne, and for those people in the chat who don't know, he was a guy that was caught on To Catch a Predator that then started becoming involved with his own YouTube community. But in the case of Lorne, people could justify going as far as possible. In the case of Chris Chan, he's a terrible person. But what's he done to you personally that makes you think it's okay to manipulate him into shoving things up his fucking ass?
No, but you could say the same about Lorne. I'm sorry, but almost it was seen as justified because what he tried to do, but he wasn't. What he'd done was done, and it didn't try and hurt anybody else. But yet it was almost seen as no matter what is done to him is justified. So I suppose it's where is that line drawn? In other words, is there another person on the planet? I said obviously there will be people on the planet, but when does what happened to Chris Troll become acceptable?
Well, no, the blue spike thing is not acceptable. However, if you compare it, and that's why I titled this Blue Spike and the Trolls, if you compare it to the other trolling, and I know if you've only been watching the documentaries or you don't have a huge knowledge of the Chaniverse, you might not be familiar, but there are trolls who tried to make him see the error of his ways, who tried to make him a better person. And I can see why people would want to do that. And also, if they're entertaining at the same time and they wind him up at the same time, alright, whatever. But when you're just set out and your only intent is to humiliate someone and this is one thing, and I know some people in the chat saying that we are defending him, but one thing I would say is the video he made straight after that he was told to shove that thing up his arse, where he admits that he did it, I would say that's probably the best course of action after that, where he goes, yeah, he made me shove this up my arse, he also wanted me to shove something up my cock, but I didn't do that. And I suppose he kind of says it in a way that's like, if you weren't aware of what had happened previously, then you might be like, oh, he's saying I didn't do either of those things, whereas he did do one of the two things. But at least he was candid about it. He's very candid. Now, maybe that is due to his lack of social skills, that he doesn't understand you shouldn't be doing these things, or telling people you've done these things in public. But once you have done that, in fact, to an extent, it reminds me of when I was, and you guys who subscribe to my scam baiting channel may have seen the video I made where I was nearly sex scammed. And I think that's why it kind of struck home listening to the Blue Spike audio recordings. It's kind of like, well, yeah, I was sort of, well, not forced to do something, but he must have had that same feeling in him when that woman. It's a little bit difficult for me to talk about, but that feeling. Okay, I don't think that anything like this has happened to you, Andy, but if you're unaware of this story, I was nearly sex scammed because a long time ago I went on a sort of adult dating website, asked the person to prove they were real, thinking I was being clever, and in fact this shows how human it is when a woman comes into the situation, thinking I was being clever and saying that's not you in the pictures, because it was like a picture of some like stock photo of some American cheerleader prep school looking person or whatever. And then they came on webcam and she went, this is me, and I was like, okay, you're attractive, but it's not you in the photo. And I was an absolute dick because alarm bells should have been ringing. Why is a pretty girl using something? Anyway, we had a brief foray, and then she started playing back the video of me of what we had been doing together, but just of me to me, and was like, I'm going to send this to everyone on your Facebook, because I'd already given her my Facebook details, if you don't pay me money. And I tell you, that feeling in those few seconds when I was like, fuck, was the most humiliating, degrading, and like feeling stupid in yourself for not seeing this coming feeling I'd ever had. And I suppose this is why, in regards to just the blue spike trolling, I can feel almost sympathetic. Luckily, nothing ever came of that in the end. Thank fuck I never knew about the others folder on Facebook, is all I'd say, because I just blocked, deleted, reported the person to Skype, and then didn't think about it again. Well, in fact, for like the next 3 hours, I sit there like pouring beads of sweat pouring off me and going, fuck, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Nothing came of it, but 2 years later I found the others folder on Facebook and saw she had messaged me about 10 minutes later saying, you've got 10 minutes to make the payment or this video is going to everyone on your Facebook. And that list included like my mum, my recently split up with ex-girlfriend, but thank fuck I didn't see it. It was obviously a bluff, and I called the bluff right to the last point, but it was not a very pleasant experience to go through. But I can know how it feels when someone makes you, or perhaps it not makes you, but indulges you in some kind of sexual thing, then records it and fucking threatens to put it online. That is the worst feeling you can do to anyone. It's the highest form of internet manipulation possible.
Yeah, you're totally invading someone's privacy, aren't you? Holding someone over them. If it was me, I wouldn't have anything to worry about. But yeah, I mean, I've never been in that position, Adam, so I can't really empathise with that. I can Sorry, I didn't mean
don't ever get yourself in that position, and that's a warning to. I didn't mind putting that video forward. I apologise, we're going off topic again. But I didn't mind making that video so that if my embarrassment stops it happening to other people, then.
Well, actually, there was an incident. I'm not going to mention any names just in case I've got the wrong end of the stick about who it is. But there was someone, I've told you about this, who said that, you know, because I was like very close to someone online. Anyway, and someone made a comment on my channel before it got taken down and said that there's pictures about you going online, we're all having a laugh at it, and it got really horrible and personal. Eventually that person thought better of it and deleted the comment, and when I thought about it, I thought, well, I'm not that bothered anyway. But it was a really horrible feeling at the time, because it was like someone I trusted had let information go online, and then some fucker had decided to try and use that against me. And I was like, it's like a sick feeling you get in your stomach, isn't it? You know, and you've not really done. And it was only because of that them comments I made about online dating, and someone took offence at it. And you know, I've admitted it was a bit of a silly thing to say, but it wasn't that silly where someone should personally attack me, because I didn't personally attack anybody. It was just a couple of stupid comments. But yet, this is the way people operate online. When someone does something that you don't agree with, you can justify in your mind anything.
Well, and this is it. This is why I wanted to, or I said, like, you could almost compare your situation to Chris Chan's a bit. Okay, Chris Chan overall is a terrible person. From what I believe, people try to help him and he doesn't listen, and then they end up getting tired and trolling him, or how it's most of them put it out. But what has Chris Chan ever done in his life that is that terrible? Okay, he's said some pretty horrible things about homosexual people. However, now what we know of him becoming Christine and that sort of thing, and also growing up in what I believe was a fairly old-fashioned household, is it that he didn't understand how to deal with his homosexuality? And so it manifested as hate. As I previously stated, homophobics tend to be the people that are most likely to become homosexual. People that have an issue with people who... I mean, the thing is, let's be honest, you can't imagine that there was gay people hitting on Chris every day or something. So why he would take such a hatred towards the gay community is very strange, unless he was trying to deal with something. There's a very thin divide between love and hate. Perhaps this was his way of trying to deal with his he didn't want to admit that he was homosexual.
Yeah, and that's a common thing, isn't it? He's like overcompensating a little bit.
Yeah.
I've just got nipped to the loo, Adam.
Okay. Of course, that doesn't excuse him, but even going back then, it was 10 years ago, and we're in a progressive time at the moment where, you know, everyone wants acceptance and people want to be what they want to be, and that's all good. For me, like, perhaps in a way, Chris becoming Christine for himself is a good thing, and maybe I am a bit too sympathetic towards him at the time being, because of the most recent one of these documentary series being released is the one with the blue spike trolling. And I'm sorry if you don't feel at least a degree of sympathy whilst listening to that audio recording, then you probably don't have a heart. Of course, people don't make things easy for themselves, they don't think things through, and they don't do things, especially in regards to Chris. It's very telling when you listen to the Robert Simmons audio recording, and he goes, "Hold on to my autograph, that might be valuable in a few years," and it does show his delusions of grandeur. But I know 1,000 people, well, not 1,000 people, I've only got about 10 friends, but I know a lot of people who have...
I've got 11.
Whoa! But I know a lot of people who have delusions of grandeur. Does someone having delusions of grandeur or not being a very sociable or understanding person, it never justifies making them do horrible shit. And I don't think, even to an extent, it doesn't justify them stealing and hacking his shit. Yes, he was stupid for giving them his password, but he thought he was giving it to the girl he was in love with, and I know he had been warned that she wasn't a real girl. But you see this in not just someone like Chris Chan. You see that kind of mentality in a lot of people, even like older people or
the older generation that are used to a different way of thinking. Like, there's members of my family that come out with some ridiculously racist terms, and I don't hold it against them, because that's the way that they were brought up, and that's the norm for them. But of course, if they were in the profession that I were in and mixed in the circles that I do and came out with that kind of language, they'd probably get beaten up or...
Well, I mean, it's more this blind naivety as well. You know, you see so many old people that fall for the romance scam, and I think in the back of their minds somewhere, especially these people that they keep sending money and they keep sending money, and they're saying, "Oh, when are you going to come and meet me?" and this sort of thing, and they know in the back of their minds this person isn't real. They just want so badly for them to be real, because they're so desperate for love, or so desperate not to be alone.
Bit like Lorne.
Absolutely, but Lorne, you know, old people that get scammed by Nigerian scammers, Chris Chan, they're so desperate for that person to be real.
And it's the strongest pull that we have as humans, so you can understand it.
You can, yeah. I mean, it's stupid. It does make you a stupid person. People need to face up to that. Like I said, in regards to my very brief foray in nearly getting scammed, I was stupid. I was naive. I saw a pretty girl on the camera, and she said, "Let's do this." So I went, "All right, great." I didn't even think about what the repercussions could be. Because at the time I was lonely.
How many people day by day get fooled by pretty face? It's got to be the most common thing on the planet that has fooled people. It just is. It will continue. It will happen every day in thousands and thousands of cases across the world. Do you know what's kind of interesting, right? I'm sorry to go into my deep spirituality stuff with this, right, Adam, but bear with me a little bit. What I find the most interesting about this kind of thing and the way that people are, when I'm reading my spirituality books and things like that, there's one common theme that reoccurs, and one common teaching is, and this is true for all religions and teachings, is that to love your enemy. So it basically means, from one perspective, don't have any. So what it's saying is, if someone does something wrong, no matter how evil it is, you've got to see through that evil and see that it is a person who has lost their way. And do you understand where? So in other words, a person can only act where they're up to for their level of consciousness. They can't act beyond that. So you've got to, no matter how evil someone, even the fundamental terrorist who straps a device to him, the truth, it's ridiculously, if a family member of yours would, I don't want to say those words, but if someone you knew was affected, it would be virtually impossible to forgive them. But that is the true way of being. Do you understand what I'm coming from, Adam?
So are you saying Blue Spike should be forgiven?
From one perspective, yes, because he is a human, and we're all part of the same organism, right? You can't dismiss one person as being evil and write them off and say, right, he's a scumbag, he deserves whatever. You can't do that. You've got to. They say the true level of judging a society is how they treat their criminals, and it's the same thing. From one perspective, you got to look at what people are responsible for what they do. If someone does something bad, they should pay for it in one way or another. There's no doubt about that. But what I'm saying is, don't dehumanize that person. Don't just write them off as evil. You've got to understand, where does that evil come from?
Everyone is redeemable, but there are some acts that you should be able to, as a human being, 13, 15, 20, 30, 40, you should be able to say, that's not okay.
But he doesn't know any better. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Wait, who do you mean here?
Anybody. Well, let's just say this Blue Spike fella, right? He's 13-year-old. We don't know anything about him. I'm not. Listen, what he did was terrible, and he deserved.
Yeah, no,
he deserved some kind of punishment. Whether I don't mean saying, like whipped.
And the first Mrs. R said as well that possibly someone like that would have had a history of abuse. So perhaps that was his way of displaying it. Okay, yeah. And this is where you get this kind of horrible pendulum effect where people treat people badly, and then those people think it's okay to treat other people badly. I just think, there's lines and there's...
Well, no, there isn't, though.
No, but there is a point where you must go, what am I doing? Even if you've been treated I guess everyone's extent of what's okay and what's not okay is given in a different way, and I do kind of think of myself as an authority on this, but as I've said before, I've been very lucky to have a very pleasant life. I can't say that I've ever felt pure hate for anyone throughout my whole life. I don't think anyone's done anything really, really terrible to me, and perhaps it's just an emotion I don't fully understand because I've never been in that situation. And yes, if you have a life that's filled with horror and hate coming from your own family, maybe you do want to take it out on that 25-year-old autistic boy on the internet, but it doesn't make it right.
No, it doesn't, and I'm not trying to say it's right. I'm trying to listen, right, if we all hated everybody for doing everything evil, it would never end. It takes somebody... No, I was going to say it takes somebody special, but that's the wrong way of putting it. You have to end it by rising above it and saying, let's understand why this person did this. And then you end this. That's where karma ends.
Yeah.
Karma continues. Karma is the repercussions of identifying evil as evil. Evil isn't a tangible thing. It's like darkness is the absence of light, right? You're going to hate me for going this deep, but I can't help it.
No, I'm just thinking we should start doing these streams earlier because they seem to get very profound at the moment. But yeah, anyway. Oh.
Yeah, I just thought I'd stop myself there. Maybe it was going a bit too far.
No, I was looking forward to
it. I've just had some... You'd have to bear with me. I've just had some pretty bad news about a friend of mine who's in hospital. I'm just texting his twin sister now.
Oh, sorry to hear that, man.
No, I'm sorry to bring it up. I'm not trying to do it to invoke sympathy. I'm just texting Catherine now, so it's pretty. He's like, he lived with me for 3 years. Anyway, sorry. What I'm trying to say, right? Let's say somebody does something terrible to me now. Let's say I walk out my house and somebody punches me in the face and robs my phone and runs off. Okay. The normal reaction would be to, oh shit, can I bail? I'm gonna have to ring my mates up.
Yeah, no worries, it's understandable. Sorry, Andy, sorry, Adam.
No, you don't have to apologise. I'm sorry it's just, my head's a bit on my arse at the minute. I'm sorry about this. Can I come back in 10 minutes? I've just got to make a couple of calls. Or in fact, just a couple of minutes. Is that all right?
Yeah, no worries.
Let me just put it on mute, and I've just got to call a couple of friends.
All right, cool.
I don't have many, but these that are there, I've got a. Right, let me just mute it.
All right.
Just bear with me.
All right, you're gonna stay here because I'll bring on Hal and Mark if they're both available.
Cool. Yeah, bring them in, and I'll join back in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So we're gonna a bit of a surprise for you guys. We're gonna get a couple more people. Well, Skeleton, if you're free, I will add you. I'm just gonna add Hal now. Sorry for the Skype noises, guys. Do apologise. I think Hal is here, and let me try and... How do I add someone else? Right, bear with me. Okay. Oh, you weren't online. Right. Oh, sorry guys, bear with me. I'm just going to turn the sound... Ow, that's there we go. Hey Mark, how you doing? Oh, sorry.
Hello. Right, okay.
I'm here. Okay. Right.
Okay.
So I now have Hal and Mark joining me.
Hello.
I believe I've accidentally called Dan, but I think he's hung up. So you guys, are you up to date on the documentary we've been talking about?
I'm up to episode 4, I think, of the Chris Chan documentary.
Okay. So, in fact, Mark, what are your feelings on him as someone who has Asperger's? What's your first perceptions of Chris Chan now that you're falling into this rabbit hole? And while you answer that question, I'm just going to dash for 1 minute and get another drink. Bear with me.
Okay. Well, let's see. I think it seems like sometimes he's focusing too much on the autism. I mean, he's kind of like using it as an I hate to say the term as an excuse, but more like a reason for him doing what he does.
I can totally see, where you're coming from with that, actually. I mean, I know lots of people don't really know me, but I've got something called scoliosis, which is a lateral curvature of the spine. And I'm in contact with a lot of other people with similar things. And I see it all the time, using scoliosis as an excuse, in a way.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think I do. I think I do see what you mean.
Sorry, I'm back, guys. Apologies for the
Okay.
brief
Hello.
break.
Going on there, but I didn't know what it was.
So I guess Hal, have you heard the full audio recording of the Blue Spike trolling?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I certainly know which recording you're going on about, so...
How did you feel listening to that, if you remember it?
I mean, it was... I was, very uncomfortable listen, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. I think
No, so,
it was uncomfortable for Chris and uncomfortable for everyone. That's the millions of people that have heard it in the time that's passed since.
well, yeah. I mean, I had to, do several attempts. But that was, what I did listen to. I was at my parents' house back in England.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
obviously, didn't want to, have some 13-year-old go, you just had phone sex with a 13-year-old boy. I don't want my parents hearing that.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. When I was listening to the audio recording, I was like, if anyone could hear me listening to this, they'd be like, what is going on? But that's what made it so terrible throughout that audio recording, because like Chris, in fact, he doesn't sort of exclaim any pain or anything, which is, I don't know. I've never shoved things up my arse, but and I'm guessing it wasn't his first time. But he doesn't. He just sort of says, "I'm tired and I feel miserable." And I'm sorry, that does evoke sympathy in me in regards to this kind of this one part of the trolling. I understand a lot of the other trolling is kind of reactions to his own actions, etc. But it made me so uncomfortable, and it made me feel kind of just like, man, no one deserves to go through that shit.
No, of course not.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemies, and yet people do this for sport.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of... Do any of you remember that Kane Larkin kid from a few years ago?
Who?
There's this kid called Kane Larkin.
No, I don't know.
No, it was when I came across him, first year of uni. He was this young gay kid who was getting a shitload of abuse online. Back to my first comment of, going underground, in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think someone like... The thing is with Chris, he really wanted... I mean, he's really proud of his Sonic character, and while he might not get the irony in the supporters that he thinks he has, like his Sonitube character, because it's not very creative, it is just combining two characters together, but he's very proud. I mean, he's sat down and written, I believe 12 to 17 episodes of this comic book, and he wants people to like it, and he believes himself to be an inspiration to kind of all people with autism. And in a way, you can almost sort of see a valiance in that, but it's then the way that he thinks that he is definitely going to be this famous person, and that he deserves all the china that comes his way. And
I mean, I hate to go back to it, but a bit like Lorne and the whole country singer shite that he was trying to...
Well, I think the phrase that describes the pair of them the best and makes them so easily comparable is delusions of grandeur. If you have delusions of grandeur, people will, especially, I've seen some quite people acting in ways that I haven't agreed with personally, because they've got 2,000 YouTube subscribers. I've got 2,000 YouTube subscribers. Look at me, I've got a massive channel. You owe me this, you owe me that. Power or following goes to some people's heads.
Yeah, but then you look at someone like PewDiePie, who has like over 60 million subscribers. So
yeah, but what do you mean? Do you think he's humble, or do you think... No, I don't think you can compare PewDiePie. To me, he was a very clever, intelligent guy that saw YouTube and became the biggest YouTuber he could, because he started doing it early. Whether that was always in his mind or whether it was just a happy accident, but I don't think you could really compare someone like that to Chris Chan. However, are you familiar with like the iDubbbz videos?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
Oh.
Yeah, what did you say, Mark?
Oh, I just said that I'm familiar with iDubbbz.
Yeah, well, I mean that is probably trolling of the best way, because he doesn't ever doesn't really personally attack people, but he only makes videos of people who have put themselves out there, and they're normally big YouTubers, and he takes the piss out of them, and he single-handedly has destroyed channels, but he does it in such an intelligent, entertaining and funny way. That to me is the essence of trolling.
I mean, when he went on the H3H3 podcast, sticking to iDubbbz for a second here, he said that he only ever does these content cops, or people that he feels need to be taken down a peg or two.
Yeah.
Like the Leafy Keemstar and all that.
Well, even Keemstar, who we all know is a despicable person, if you're familiar with him. Even Keemstar, after the content cop said, I can't come back to that, it's hilarious. Whereas, Leafy's just was exposed as a twat because he couldn't take the joke.
And he responded in exactly the way that iDubbbz said he would in the original video.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the difference between knowing whether you're fighting a losing battle or not. And if you know you're fighting a losing battle and you can buy into it yourself and have a laugh at yourself, then you'll tend to come off as a decent person, or at least a person who understands. Chris Chan, and maybe you would understand more. Maybe Chris Chan doesn't understand that perhaps having the ability to take the piss out of himself and have a laugh at himself would probably do a lot better than coming across as kind of egotistical and ranting about everyone who upsets him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I think with Chris Chan, because he has what I guess you could call social blindness or something, really.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, with myself, if I can take the piss out of myself, I will. I mean, it's a good way to say, yeah, I'm here, I'm a little bit crazy, blah 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 blah. And if I can make a funny comment from somebody's mention of me, then yeah. But I think Chris Chan doesn't really get it, and sometimes he thinks of a statement in a comment on a video to be gospel, when really all they're doing is taking a piss.
Yeah, it's like there was, I think it was mentioned in the most recent part of the documentary we keep talking about, but Chris Chan took a joke from Family Guy, literally, where they talked about a verse from Leviticus in the Bible saying that a man should not lie with another man, and then he made this video saying, yeah, this is right, and it's been on Family Guy, it must be right.
They had a comedy show, so...
Well, yeah, Chris Chan's life seems to have been quite filled with cartoons that he's taken literally. I mean, some of his statements over the years, he sees his characters as real people and that sort of thing. But I suppose getting into his mentality could be is for another day. But yeah, I don't think he kind of understands the difference between television and reality, which has kind of been a theme throughout everything that's happened during this. Sorry guys, I'm just going to bring Andy back into the call, hopefully.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey Andy, you all alright?
Hello. Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. I don't think we'll go on too much longer. These guys aren't up to date with the documentary, so it's a little bit hard to sort of focus just on the Blue Spike part.
I mean, I am aware of the Blue Spike phone call, but as I said, I had a bit of difficulty getting through it.
Yeah, well, I think we all did. I mean, that latest video was I'd never heard the recording in full, and all of those parts of them. I'd seen the transcript of the recording, but it's not the same as hearing the voices, really. And then it hits home just kind of how dark the whole situation is.
Yeah, thing is, it's kind of like how it's affected him overall. When I saw his last video, you know, obviously that blue spike thing seemed to be the catalyst of the main mean trolling, didn't it? Because we've got a long way to go. That was 10 years ago. So,
well, I'm planning a video where I'm going to rate his trolls, but kind of based on who has been the funniest or who has been the most entertaining, but yeah, I think Blue Spike will get a dishonourable mention as just the cuntiest.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, do you know, have you guys seen the last video he posted on his channel?
Which one was it?
Where he's like, I'm sick of the haters. He was rabbiting on and begging for money, and
well, I think I Dick Licker came after that, but was removed by YouTube. But yeah, anyway, yeah, he said he was sick of the commentary, and that's where we come back to the debate of whether it's okay of us talking about him and not. But I don't think we are all kind of falling down this rabbit hole at the same time. We're all going on a journey, a very intriguing and interesting journey of someone else's life at the same time. And although we may form opinions that might not be kind, or they might make a mockery of him as a person, I wouldn't say I would never personally do anything that is malicious. I have no reason to. The guy's never personally affected my life in any way. And I think if there is so much information for someone available on the internet, then you are welcome to talk about them and talk about that person and even analyse them or make jokes at their expense. But there's a difference when that joke starts causing distress to that person.
I mean, I think there's quite clearly a difference between a joke and banter and actual bullying and harassment. And I think online, online that line is a lot thinner than it is in real life.
But it's also more of a blurred line, to horribly quote Robin Thicke, as to we don't know. We have no way of knowing if making these, I guess we'd call them podcasts, have any kind of detrimental effect towards him or not. I very much doubt Chris is aware.
You made a video if he was, so.
But based on what Andy just mentioned, his last video, and he's saying stop the commentary, it's like he almost takes offence at people even talking about him. But yeah, personally, I would say there's a big difference between, trying to contact someone directly to make them a fool, to make them into your own little court jester. And I suppose that is what Chris Chan has been of the internet, and he doesn't help himself in that regard. He is the court jester of the internet.
We're touching upon the other part that that intrigues me. It's how much responsibility. It's all this thing about personal responsibility and how much blame can be attributed to his situation, and how much of a disadvantage is he? With someone like Lon, it's very straightforward. He tried to do what he did, and in some people's eyes, whatever will be done to him is justified. With Chris Chan, he's got autism. But he's also displayed incredible intelligence and awareness in a lot of what he's done. So it's very difficult to attribute his ignorance to his autism in a way. So where's that line drawn? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah. And he himself often blames his misgivings on his autism. I understand a lot of people don't like that,
but isn't it really profound what that girl in the shop said in the mall, and her assessment of what Chris Chan was? She said he knows he can't see things like other people can, and he knows he can't see things like other people can, and it just really struck a chord with me, that.
Yeah, he's aware of his limitations. We kind of discussed that before, and it's a little bit sad, I guess. He's intelligent enough to know that, but I don't think he has. I just.
What do you think, Mark? You're in a good position to make comment.
Well, I think he's aware that he is unaware of some social things, and like I mentioned earlier when I just joined the call, I think that sometimes he is using his autism as an excuse to do some of the stuff, not all of the stuff, but some of the stuff that he tries to get away with.
Yeah, he uses it as an excuse.
The guy with autism, it's okay for him to just do.
Yeah, he can be creepy towards a girl, and then they go, "Why stop being creepy?" Go, "Sorry, I'm autistic." That's not really on, because if he's aware to apologise and that sort of thing, you know, he's high functioning autistic, and I would like to hope, or that he would want to be treated the same as everyone else anyway. So he shouldn't use it as an excuse, because if he wants to use it as an excuse, then it's almost like saying, well, I shouldn't be allowed to socialise with people. If that makes sense? It's like saying, well, I'm not fully functional. Well, not I shouldn't be allowed to socialise with people, but if I keep using my autism as an excuse, should it not always be under supervision? We've got into a very dodgy moral territory here, because there's very different places on the scale of autism as well.
Yeah.
And I think it must affect each person differently, because everybody's brain is different. So,
but that you don't have to be autistic to have a brain that functions different to someone else.
Well, that's what I mean. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is everybody's different. Everybody's brain is different, just like a fingerprint. So if you've got a degree of autism, you're not going to have exactly the same autism that somebody else has got. It's all going to... There's millions of factors that go in, an infinite amount of factors, in fact, that go into that. So you can't put someone in a box and say, well, he's got autism, so he doesn't know this and he doesn't know that. It's kind of... I suppose, really, if you think about it, there's no ultimate answer to what we're trying to, how much responsibility. I suppose only really he knows the answer to those questions. I suppose only he knows deep down how much of his crazy situation and whatever's become of him is his fault, if you get what I mean. It's his doing. I mean, from one perspective, it's all his own doing, and from another's, it isn't.
Well, I think, yeah, to an extent, he must take responsibility for a lot, if not the majority, of the trolling. But sometimes, some people who are trolls, they cross a line, and it's not, it's not right. No, if this person hasn't caused that kind of pain to you, and this is what I can't get my head around in regards to the blue spike trolling, like, as far as I'm aware, it was sport to them, to him. It was like, let's see how far we can make this guy go. But he had never actually done anything to this kid. And maybe this kid wanted to show off and say, look what I can make this guy do to the other older trolls. But at the same time, he was not developed enough to understand that you can't go that far with people. It's not okay to make people shove things up their arse. It's not okay to rob things from people because you've manipulated them.
I mean, I think I'm covering, old ground here. But, maybe he had some things going on, off the internet, whether that be, at home, or if he was 13, at school maybe. So maybe he thought, if this kind of stuff is going on at home or at school, then it's obviously all right for me to do it to this character, Chris Chan.
Well, yeah, I guess it's kind of what we said. We don't know what his home life was, and maybe he was taking out sort of the way he'd been treated to other people or that sort of thing. But
I mean, it's the
yeah,
classic bully thing, isn't it? That you hear about. The reason that somebody is being a bully is they've either got, a shitty home life or they're being bullied. So,
yeah. Well, it's the old phrase, what goes around comes around. It's just what goes around comes around should come back to the person who did it, not just to someone else random.
It's funny though, isn't it? The choices that you make in life, like no matter what bad things happen to you, you always have that you always have that ability to say, I'm better than this, or I'm going to make a change. And some people do, some people don't. I don't think we should totally condemn the people that don't, but it is interesting. Some people have been through terrible things when they're a kid and they end up doing great things. Some people go through terrible things and end up becoming evil.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had a good conversation about Chris Chan, and well, mostly about Blue Spike. As I said, Chris or Christine, whatever he wants to be, we don't condone any hate being sent his way. But if you want to laugh at his antics, then that's fine. And
as long as you don't cross a line, as it were.
Sorry?
As long as you don't cross that line.
Yeah, I mean, for me, being an outside observer, I don't think there's any harm or more harm he'd come to by us sitting and chatting about things that had happened. So otherwise I wouldn't do it. But at the same time, I understand, I'm still learning a lot about this whole history and whether or not anything has been justified and whether or not it's all of his own making. But I think and Andy's aware of this, but you two aren't, so I'm going to drag you in because I think we need to end on a more fun note. So so I'm about to send you guys, if you can look in, I've sent you all the lyrics, and you can, and the people in the chat, you can either see this as taking the piss if you want because it's kind of funny, or you can see it as an ode to if you want to look in a more positive light. But we're going to have a musical outro for this evening's stream where we
apologise in advance for my shitty singing.
I think
I'm not good at singing when I'm sober, and I'm not sober, so
it goes for everyone with the exception of Andy, who thinks he can actually sing. So we're gonna sing you guys out with Chris's version of the Backstreet Boys' "I Want It That Way."
Have you got the instrumental version?
I'm about to bring up the karaoke version. Now, the difficulty with Chris's lyrics is they appear randomly, and I think they only come in like halfway through the song. So we're just going to have to try and guess where they are. So, yeah, and especially as I've now hit 1,000 subs, and thank you guys very much for that, I can actually monetize my videos in the future.
This shows there's a lot of sympathisers out there, isn't there, Adam?
A lot of people with sympathy for me for that time I shoved my own medallion up my arse.
What a fun night we had that time, didn't we, Adam?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I gave it to my mum for Christmas. But oh, I'm sorry.
Oh dear, oh dear.
I'm sorry.
Any credibility this stream had has just disappeared.
That's that.
I thought it disappeared as soon as I joined, but
yeah, so we're gonna sing you out with Chris's reworking. Of course, this isn't an original composition by us, but Chris's reworking of the Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way. We're all just gonna have to guess where it comes in. So sorry, that's the beginning there. Can you guys all hear that?
I can't hear anything.
Hold on, I'm not sharing system sounds. That's why.
on your
It's a bit loud. Right, can you guys hear it now?
I can.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with the song though. I don't know when the
How
lyrics
do you
are
not know
supposed to
this?
kick in.
This is one of the all-time
No,
classics.
no. But what I mean is,
I'm not familiar with the original by the Backstreet Boys. That's what I mean anyway.
Yeah.
we'll sort it.
Right, we'll just have to guess where it starts from.
Part of
Okay.
the
So when you're ready, lads.
Okay.
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 All right. Let's get into this. Oh, I think we've missed it. Come on.
Bugger.
Here we go. No one's singing. Come on, guys.
Right, when's it supposed to start? I'm not familiar with this song.
Wait. Wait. Right. Hold on. I'm sorry. This was meant to be a lot smoother. Right. You see, have you got the lyrics? Have you got the message I've sent you with the lyrics?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you start in like 3 seconds from Without a Fire. Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Without a fire.
Well, then you start singing and then we'll join in. You know when it starts. We don't.
Yeah, my apologies. It's
Jesus.
because I sent you the message and I couldn't actually look at it, so I was trying to find the lyrics I had up. Okay. Ready, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a fire, but a desire not to hear you say,
I have a boyfriend.
and I see the ladies walking
In a
along, one by one. I never want to hear you say, I have a boyfriend. Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why I go my age.
I have no idea, but
I never want to hear you say, I have a boyfriend.
tell me why.
Tell me why I'm stuck as a virgin with rage. Tell me why. Tell my age. Tell me why.
Boy,
And I have no fire, but a desire not to hear you say, I have a boyfriend.
Oh, there's more. I've got to scroll down. Sorry.
And there we go. And I think if anyone could have made that worse than Chris Chan, it was us.
yeah, it was. That was a thing of beauty.
It was nice actually. And Andy brought in the one line of hearing. Hal kept clipping out a mark. I'm disappointed.
Sorry. I thought my housemates were listening in.
Yeah, after New Year's, I was falling back on you. I was like, yeah, Mark's gonna hold this up. But yeah, there we go. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the odd bit of karaoke.
You're the only person that did enjoy your singing.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out if my housemates heard me. If they did, I'm screwed.
Yeah, do you know what? I was thinking my neighbours have heard me singing to Backstreet Boys, thinking, yep, it's finally happened. Andy's lost it.
No, this
No,
French guy was in the telly earlier, so
the Backstreet Boys are now cool because they actually made fun poppy tunes. You're allowed to look back with a kind of glorious irony to the Backstreet Boys because
If you say so.
their songs weren't that bad. So you guys aren't having it, but I've as I've got older, I've warmed to pop music. I must admit. In fact, I recently started listening to K-pop. That's how bad things have got. But yeah, it's just happy. When I'm at work and I'm like, I want to listen to something happy. What do I know that's happy? Whack on a bit of K-pop, even though it is the pedo's paradise. But but yeah,
it was a nice fun way to end a pretty heavy stream.
Exactly.
And I needed a bit of cheering up.
Exactly, and and it rewards the people who stayed from start to end. They go, we've got to see them making twats of themselves, and perhaps that's the difference. If you can be aware when you're being a twat, when you are a twat, and embrace it. Embrace it. That's the words of wisdom I'm gonna leave you with. Be a knob, but be aware you're being a knob. In fact, that's probably my mantra for most of my life. And then
I thought it was just be a knob.
Just be a knob. Just yeah.
well, that's my mantra. So
but yeah, so thanks so much for joining me, Mark, Hal, Andy, and of course Dan earlier. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. It's been an enjoyable, if at times harrowing, but an enjoyable stream. And guys in the chat, I really enjoy being able to drag people down these rabbit holes with me. And there'll be more of this kind of thing. So yeah. I hope you guys have had a good time. I've had a good time. And I guess, I kind of even don't want to go now, but I kind of want to stop this stream and start a new one where we just do karaoke for the rest of the evening. But I don't... Can we do that?
Please.
How long you want to go for?
Yeah, well, I'm up for it. Obviously, we need to split away from this. Let's end this stream and let's have a quick chat offline. See if any of what you guys are up for, because I'm drunk. So yeah, thanks for joining me, everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining me, guys, who I'm talking to. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. Remember to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And I hope to see some of you lovely people in the very near future. Bye bye.
Cheers.
See ya.